Broadly speaking, there are two sorts of shortbent gouges. There are tools which are very flat in the sweep, number 3, something like that, and these are used for finishing off backgrounds. Then essentially there's everything else. That's all your gouges, the sweeps and widths that are available as shortbent tools. These are more properly called spoon bends. I'm going to talk about both sorts. They're sharpened slightly differently and used in different ways. So let's start with these more spoon-shaped gouges. Here's a typical short-bent gouge. The way I use it, the way I think I'd suggest you use it, is to put your thumb at the back here and grip it in effectively the pen and dagger grip that we've talked about elsewhere on the site. So my thumb here in that crank, fingers gripping it, and this hand very much like the dagger. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing with my thumb even as I lever back like this. So into the wood, pushing forward. So the thumb's a really important part of it. What you don't want to do is push in and just lever like that, because that will dull the edge, even break the corner. You're levering. This must be pushed forward through the wood like this. And of course what you can do is you can put a bit of a slice on it like this by twisting the handle here, and that gives you a slicing cut if you need to. Here's another tool with a bigger crank, tighter crank, and it's exactly the same thing. So the handle is coming right round, look, from here right round to there as I push forward with my thumb. When you've got a bigger tool like this one, sometimes that's really hard to push through, so you can revert to a more normal two-handed grip like this, but this time you're sort of levering on this part of the hand here, but the tool is still going forward. A tool like this has a really thick shank, unlike these tools which are quite light. So this is a tool here that you could use with a mallet. This one you wouldn't, so you could use this with a mallet. There's a lot of stress here, and you do need the mass of the metal to take that without that breaking. Here's a really short old tool. It's actually probably something like that originally, like this one, but all this has been worn back over the years, so this is quite an old tool. But even tools like this that are worn back, as long as they've still got their temper, and it probably still has right up to the crank, you can still use them exactly the same sort of way like this. But this time you get a really short little cut like this. Very useful for getting into very deep recesses. And my favourite tool, or one of my tools that I really like, is this very short old tool that is just, it's got a bit of a nose on it. In other words, the centre comes out in front, and you can use this one very tight little recesses, just like this. So, and one of the reasons why you're able to do this with these tools is because you've taken off this heel. So these tools are sharpened without a heel, so that makes that able to go round very smoothly like this without anything to bump on. So there you are. These are the spoon gouges, or the short gouges. This is a regular, normal, flat gouge, a number 3, and is used for finishing off the backgrounds. It's got a heel, it's got its corners and so on. This tool here is also used for finishing off backgrounds, and is exactly the same in the cutting edge. The two tools are identical. The only thing here is that we've got a crank that enables this tool to reach into parts that the straight tool wouldn't be able to get into. So that's really what it is. So when you get it into that part, into the background that you're using, you just treat it like an ordinary flat gouge, and you can clean off the background exactly as you would with this gouge, with slicing cuts going across the background. So this one here is essentially, as I called it earlier, a grounding tool, meaning it's just a way of finishing off the background without getting in the way. So it's not levered like this, it's just pushed across like so. And of course they come in different sizes. I have a nice little range of these tools for getting into recesses. And you can see also that sometimes you get shorter versions in the same sort of way, which are good for getting into different sorts of recesses. You never know what you're going to need. And here's a tool that I've wrapped the shank with a bit of tape. Why? Because I was using that all day cleaning up a background and my thumb got very sore. And either I can wrap my thumb or I can wrap the edge of the shank here, and that works quite well. So there it is, that's the grounder or grounding tool. So I want to show you some places where I might use these tools. This is a bit of tracery, Gothic tracery, and there's this lovely curved moulding here. So you can imagine, it's easy to see that this tool, a bent tool like this, would be perfect for going around. In fact, sometimes these tools are called tracery tools because they will cut that cove beautifully. So that would be a very good place to see where that tool would fit in that sort of curve. If we look at this other carving here, there are lots of deep recesses in this carving. In among here, for example, in the bottom of the eye, I can't really get in there because of the sides of this hole, if you like. So this is where a tool like this would come in very nicely for going around the corner here, or of course in this direction as well. So we'd be able to get that tool right in there. Another example would be that little tool I mentioned, the very short one, perfect for getting in here, getting into the nostrils. In the eyes here, that deep recess, if I've got the right tool, you can come in here right down like that, right underneath the pupil there. So wherever there are deep recesses that you need to get in, that you can't get in because something's getting in the way, this is where this tool comes into its own. This sort of thing here. The main problem with this lobster carving was getting into these spaces between the legs. I could get in so far with this tool, a flat gouge, but the sides of the legs soon got in the way, and it was this sort of tool, the bent gouge, that really came into its own. So I could remove as much of what I can with deeper gouges and then start cleaning up with a short bent grounding tool like this. Coming this way. See how it comes down the side of the lobster, so I'm coming in quite close to the side of the lobster in this direction. So the perfect tool for finishing off.